The studio between architecture takes as its main concern the capacity of the section to move beyond the serial stack and instead to develop complex spatial propositions for nesting together a parking garage and a gym. In his article, Successive Architecture, Preston Scott Cohen writes, "Gridiron urbanization led to what is still to this day the most pervasive governing spatial principle of architecture, vertical succession, the unartistically considered, non-hierarchical piling of discrete horizontal slabs of space, one atop the other. Vertical succession relegates the architect's role to designing facades and interior surfaces. This dissolution of sectional hierarchy and the subsequent relegation of architecture to a tinkering at the edges points to a series of problems that are at the heart of this first-year core studio. Namely, what can a section do, and what, if any, is its relationship to the elevation? In this studio, we look to the section as a place of great intensity that could dislodge expected relations between parts, as well as expose and choreograph alternative sequences and organizations of view and action. With this in mind, we focused on the section's generative orientation in architecture, rather than strictly seeing it as a post facto analytical instrument. In an effort to immediately challenge and interrogate the limitations of the stack, we began the studio by engaging a parking garage as an incitement for the development of a sectionally charged proposal, paying particular attention to 4 parking types: straight ramps, ramp floors, split level, and helical ramps. While at first glance the organization and circulation of cars in a parking garage may seem a banal and burdensome coordination of metrics, turning radii, numerical capacity, structural spacing, the arrangement of cars offers an immediate engagement with sectional motivations. In this sense, the parking garage is understood as a kind of sectional ready-made, preloaded with stubborn logics and formal resistance, against which an architectural proposition could be forwarded. In lieu of a precedent, we endeavored to understand and tame the highly specialized workings of parking garage structures and their discrete typologies, finding that once the basic parameters of parking were understood, a great range of possibilities became apparent in the choreography of ramps, slabs, stacks, splits, and spirals. At a large scale, parking provides a coarse sectional strategy that dislodges the serial flat plane as a given datum of a building while remaining adherent to the necessities of movement and use. It is these qualities of the parking garage, its prescriptive limitations as well as its potential exuberances, that we imagined as the fraught datum against which a second set of concerns might take root. As architecture is rarely allegiant to a single set of concerns, the forces that motivate the arrangement of spaces are always multiple and rarely straightforwardly resolvable. In part 2 of the studio, we introduced a secondary set of programs, which operate at a different sectional measure, that of the recreational gym, with its specifications for wet and dry zones, small and large activities, as well as its rituals of use. Rather than consider these two programs as merely coexisting side by side or above and below, we imagined an opportunistic intermingling of the two. This expanded set of considerations of scale, volume, organization, and movement was interpreted in each proposal as complementary, oppositional, or otherwise with the initial parking structure, and necessitated an architectural proposal that could manage both propinquity and juxtaposition. As the demands of the brief required an extended distribution of parking and gym in section, so too does each proposal require an approach to continuities and discontinuities in sequence and movement. That is to say, a considerable amount of pressure was placed on developing a strategy of organization, and then to develop a strategy of circulation that could advance the spatial ambitions of each project while establishing coherence and legibility for use. Finally, in part 3, the internal struggle of the constituent parts within came to bear on the elevation. Here, the section's hidden nature, its knowability revealed only through the projection of an abstract cut, helped us position the range of operations afforded by the outward-facing and immediately available elevation. That is, just as the section cut reveals, the elevation conceals. In the end, the elevation is what we see, the outermost surface of an enclosure, whether inside or out, its insistent visibility masking whatever ingenuity the section might have lying within. Working on a tight infill lot in downtown LA, the proposals finally confront the regulating lines of the city, setting the internal workings of the building into tension with the exterior and provoking a discussion on insides and outsides, their modes of production and reception, as well as their respective allegiances. Between what is revealed and concealed, what is read and what is experienced, this studio asks how working in section differs from other ways of seeing architecture, what it makes available and by what means, and how we might consider the section's connection to what is finally revealed at the elevation.